Right, Parish again. To the goal square. I think it's gone over the top. It has. Incredible goal to cap an incredible day from Darcy Parish.
2021 is done. It's in the books. Premierships haven't been won just yet. But for the Dons, it's over. A season that we didn't see coming, truth be told. A season in which Darcy Parish became one of the elite midfielders in the competition. Only fitting to open with that audio. Nathan.
I agree,
back.
Sam. We're back for our wrap of 2021.
2021.
What a
As I
year.
said, it's done. Bear with us on this one. It's going to be
Long.
It might be long. We don't know yet.
If you're on the toilet right now listening,
Yeah, if you're on the toilet,
you may, piles could be an option in a few more years' time because this is going to be long.
This is long. If you have a commute,
Close the door. Don't let the kids in because God knows they come in no matter what.
commute to work, perfect.
But who's
Lockdown,
commuting to
lockdown. Yeah, I know.
People
Wishful thinking. You know, just bear with us. It will be a long one. The sort
You're
of
in bed
the
listening
agenda.
to this about looking to go to sleep.
Our voices
gonna be a late
are the
night.
ones to go to sleep.
No,
to,
you've made a mistake. Critical error there.
Mistake. A bit of an agenda, not to steal from AFL 360 there, but a bit of an agenda. We'll do what we hope to be a brief wrap of the season, just the games and a bit of highs and lows sort of stuff, and then we'll go through, and the intention here is to go through player by player that played an AFL game, have a chat about them, rate them. Myself and Nath both have rated them individually, and we don't know each other's scores.
Exciting.
Bound to create some tension.
If not, we're just going to look like dorks. We're all the same.
All that. But I think when you're sitting here recording a footy podcast, we're probably dorks anyway. Lovable dorks, I hope. All right, let's crack on. So, the season itself, highs and lows. Didn't start great, did it? Hawthorn.
Crushing,
Nathan's
really?
just taking a big swig of his...
Sorry,
beverage
you normally
there
do
and
all
left
the talking. I
left
don't get a
me
word
high
in
and
at
dry.
the start. So, no, crushing at the
So,
start to lose
40
to a team that ended up being in the bottom four.
After a 40-something point lead. We were actually looking before, and obviously we will talk about the players as we go on, but Harry Jones kicked 3 points in that game. For the rest of the season, he kicked 20 goals, 3, I believe
Awesome.
it was. So,
We'll review his score.
what a kick. And it didn't get much better the week two. We had Port Adelaide. I think we pretty much expected to get a bit of a whooping there, but what we didn't probably expect was a lot of injuries out of that game. We lost some key players for a long time in Shield, Draper, Caldwell.
Yep. We didn't really see anything of Caldwell in the game in a bit.
No.
Cocaine there? Just to get through it's an hour and a half. Cocaine's going to be good.
Could you hear that, could you?
I could.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry. To the people listening, if you did hear that, I did try and mute myself before I did that. I've been having some problems with my mute options at the moment. Apologies.
Next game,
we thrashed the Saints. What a comeback! We lost by 54 points to the Power, and then a 75-point win against.
What a
St Kilda.
turnaround! Massive
that was
turnaround.
great fun. That was my first game for about 18 months that I'd been to. Missed the Hawthorn game. And I thought we'd probably lose, We weren't expecting to do what we did this year, and we smashed them. And I rated St Kilda highly at the start of the year. They finished 6th last year and looked okay. To go on.
In this year.
So yeah, that was that was a ripper. Hooksy kicked 5, Stringer 4. Big score, 143. We kicked 22 goals, so a real ripper. Then Swans, who were also flying at that point in time, I believe they just come off beating Richmond. They had, because I actually went to that game, the Sydney and Richmond game before our game against the Saints. White hot form they were in. Obviously, we weren't in too bad a form ourselves. and we lost by the 3 points. And that's that game where that inspirational or that speech from Heppel came from.
Yep.
Which really set a tone.
It did. I agree. I thought it was a great speech, and it said a lot about the group. I think that we hadn't seen for a while. That moment, I think we saw something there, and we thought, "Oh, hang on."
And you know what it said as well to me?
Mm.
There was a problem.
Bing.
There was a problem last year. There was a problem, whether that was with Woosha, the players' attitudes. I'm sure in that scenario where your coach isn't performing, that the players' attitudes themselves could be
connecting.
Questionable. But yeah, that speech.
Good point.
And the bit that rings out or stands out now, because I haven't watched it for a little while, I think he said something along the lines of like, that beats 97% of teams. Yeah. So we're good enough to win some games of football here. Yep.
And then the week after, we got touched up by Brisbane.
Yeah, and that was a really disappointing one, because in the wet, you expect a bit of a closer game.
Horrible game.
Horrible game. It was one of the very few I turned off.
Yeah, agree. I turned it off
this year and just went, nah, for my mental health, I'm going to just let that one go.
Just never looked in it.
No.
And we know we can't play in the wet. And in Queensland, wet is another level of wet.
Yes, and it was torrential. I mean, credit to Brisbane managing 15 goals. And
they train in that.
7 scoring shots for the game. Then, a bit of a low light for us there. Then Anzac Day, we flowed into Anzac Day. At the time, we didn't really think Collingwood were bad, I guess. It wasn't one, certainly.
I was pretty nervous going into this game. I know a lot of Collingwood people, and I was like, God, this is... After
you
the
always
Brisbane,
want to beat Collingwood.
Yeah, after the Brisbane game and, still unsure about everything, you were like, oh, God, where are we at? But no, great win.
Great win. Big games from Tipper. Probably Waller's best game there with 5. Stringer bobbed up with a couple in the last quarter. That footage, that sound we heard at the start there, Parish kicking a goal, obviously his first best on medal for the season and not his last.
And that's where he broke the record for most possessions, 43. 43, was it? Yep.
Oh, maybe 40. Sorry.
Anyway,
could be right there. 43.
Mid-40s.
43, 44, yeah.
Something like that.
And that Essendon players we've looked don't get 40 touches in a game. It's a very rare feat until this year where Darcy's done it a number of times.
Well, Jason Johnson did it.
That blew my mind. Anyway.
Sam's not old enough to know how good Jason Johnson was. Just for those listeners out there.
I remember watching him play.
He was handy.
I remember watching him play, but it probably was towards the end of his career, yeah. I really got into football about 2009, 10.
Yeah,
that was my first, my first year as member was 2010, I think. Yep. 2009, whatever. Moving on. Then the Blues.
Freaking lost a freaking Carlton.
Now, this one in hindsight, at the time, I wasn't too bothered because, let's be honest, Carlton should have been ahead of us, and you kind of
go,
though,
right. I know a lot of Carlton people.
Yes, we know a lot of Carlton people, especially at work where they're not... I'm not going to name names, obviously, and names won't mean anything to you guys anyway. There is one in particular at work who, at round 2, maybe even round 1, made a point of telling me that Carlton were in the 8 and we weren't. Now, I don't know about you and Early Crows, but round 1 or round 2 is not the time to be gloating about being in the finals. As it was, we finished above them. My passion for finishing above them came entirely from that moment.
Yep.
But as it was, we did lose to them in a pretty shocking game, actually. That wasn't one of our best games of footy, that one.
But we played the Giants next week, who again were about even with us. They were a bit up and down.
They were very inconsistent.
Yeah, played some good footy and went on to go a week further than us in the final. So,
and didn't disgrace themselves either. And did it with a lot of guys out.
Yeah, exactly. I would rate as a good team.
Yep. So 2-point loss there, and
respectable.
We were, I think, 3 times we scored 100 and lost, and we're the only 3 times to score 100 and lose in a whole season by any club.
And if you look at that bracket, just to stop you there, Sam, just to look at that bracket between Sydney, Brisbane, Collingwood, who were ordinary, and Carlton and Giants, and the Dockers the week after, they were all pretty close games for teams that you would argue were around us or above us, so...
Well, I was about to say that. Then came the obligatory boring game we seem to have against Fremantle every year. Yep. Scraped home by 7 points, 61-68. Not at all entertaining game of football, that one.
Nope.
Then
we
came,
were going through, yep.
for me, one of the more important games of the season heading into that one. Here we are, a team
we were very nervous about this one.
known to not perform well against lesser teams. And we beat them by 72 points. Another 141 points to us, 22 goal
22 goals, 9.
And that pleased me, not just the margin. And I have a history of not liking North Melbourne, but this year, I mean, what do you do? They're crap, and they know they're crap. Yeah. But that impressed me most because of between the years. We're playing a team that we are better than, and we should flog. And we flogged them by probably more than I expected us to.
Yeah, definitely by more than we expected to. Like, I would have taken a 40-point victory there.
Yep, absolutely. And we ended up.
Then we went
12
west.
Goals. Then we went west and won. What? We got a dub in the dub.
And we thought we were unreal beating West Coast over there. That turned out.
Little did we know West Coast were actual trash. Like Forky in Toy Story. They're trash. Nathan won't get that reference because he doesn't watch.
I haven't
children's
seen it
movies.
yet. I've been meaning to watch that one with my kids.
Okay, well, if you get the joke, there you go. That was a ripper. At the time, that was a real galvanising win for the club.
Yep.
Truck on the ground, smiling, the boys hugging the coach, that was my moment of, hey, we can do something with this team.
Yeah. And this is the period when COVID had hit again in our big wave. So we were stuck over in the West playing Richmond the week after. For the dream time. Oh, well, it was great to see a big crowd still at it. Like it was.
Look, it was, and actually, it was really impressive because at that point in time, I don't know what happened after. At that point in time, Essendon and Richmond had the highest attendance in Perth for the year,
which was amazing.
So West Coast Freo, what are you doing for a start?
Fascinating.
That game, we were in front 10 minutes into the last quarter, and they kicked away and won by nearly 40 points. Yep. And then turned to absolute shit, Richmond. So that was even more disappointing to see them decline after.
And we were kind of happy with that still. Like I remember after it, we were like, yeah, look, would have been great to not let them do that to us in the end.
Margin flattered them, but we're competing with the reigning premiers.
In the last quarter, we're out in front in the last quarter after beating West Coast over and home. We were we're up and about here.
And I'll tell you what, Waterman's goal that got us in front, I don't reckon I celebrated harder.
Yeah, true. Actually, I was
got
all
into
over
that
the place
one.
there.
Yeah. Anyway, then we come against the Buyer, which we drew. Disappointing.
What did we win?
0.
We get points, I guess.
Yeah, we drew. So, we lost then. On that logic. Then we had Retribution against the Hawks down in Tassie. One of my favourite games of the year as well. I mean, obviously Tassie didn't end up very well for us there, but at the time, big crowd, big Don's crowd.
Oh yeah.
Really loved that game for the crowd.
Yeah, yep.
Nick Hind kicked a lovely goal that day. I remember. Should have been the first of 2 times he went to Tassie, but hey-ho. Got Retribution for the earlier game in the season against Hawthorn as well, which was nice. Then we played the eventual reigning premiers in Melbourne.
Sorry?
The eventual reigning premiers? Sorry, yeah, good pick up. Minor premiers, apologies.
That bit better.
Yeah. Unless they win the flag, they are, I guess, the eventual reigning premiers.
Early croak from Sam.
Very early croak. No, they'll win it. Garden Days. I'm happy for
them.
Go
close. No doubts.
Sorry, the eventual minor premiers in the Demons. Our first podcast was after that game, or was the preview and wrap of that game.
Mm-hmm.
High five us. Got beaten by what we know by bombing it long on May and Lever's head, and that was the beginning of the Cahill Hooker decline, which we will cover.
Well, I reckon it was the week before, but yes, go forward.
Yes. Well,
then we played the
we had Geelong. Another 43 disposals and a best on medal for Das there.
On your Das.
I don't like that game. That was
then we smashed the Crows.
Smacked the Crows, kept them to their lowest ever score.
2 goals for a game.
2 goals, 9-20.
2 goals.
Yep, they were all
2 goals.
I was at that game. It was the last game I went to, and it was cold.
Roof. Wasn't the roof on?
Was open. It was freezing, and honestly, we won by 63 points. But it was the most boring game of football I've ever watched in my life.
2 goals.
Yep. Anyway, I digress. Then we headed up north, up to Metricon. COVID again, having an impact on our season. North, I think, indicative of their season, had turned it around quite a bit. We managed to get over the line there by 3 goals.
They're playing some good football by now.
They had some really good footy towards the end.
Yeah,
I think.
definitely.
So we were quite happy to win that one. Again, just win the games you should win and get through. Then we had a really flat one against GWS. At that time, they were very up and down, and I don't think they weren't at that time considered to be a good side, but they really really went on a run at the end of the year. So that was the start of their run. And again, like that was Hooker, big talking point there. We kicked 7 goals, 11 that game. Not ideal.
That's when we weren't scoring enough for those 3 weeks. Besides the Adelaide game, it was a 57 against Melbourne, a 57 against Geelong, an 84 against Adelaide, and then a 92 against North were okay, but then a 53 against Giants. Scoring was becoming an issue.
Yeah, it was. And then we turned it around somehow, but still lost. 102 points against the Swans at the G, returned to Melbourne. Not enough.
Frickin' Sydney.
Not enough.
Unusual to see a close one with Sydney.
Yeah, we do that quite a bit. 102 points there, not enough. 16-6 to 17-7. Very good display of football there in the open air of the MCG. Then we turned it round the week after, playing at that point, top of the table, Dogs.
Probably our best win. I would say best win for the year for me.
Looking back, yes. At the time, it was probably still West Coast.
We beat the top team when they were, and they had that. Well, they were the best team at the time.
And they now still look pretty bloody good.
And they had their full, like the injury they got to that forward, can't think of his name.
Bruce, yeah.
Bruce happened in the last 10 seconds, the poor bastard, too. That was like...
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah.
And now I really have a disliking for the Dogs, so I don't care quite so much. But the people side of it, yeah, it sucks for Bruce. But the Dogs and Waitman can go and get stuffed. Just quietly, Peter Wright kicked 7 that day. That
was pretty exciting for Sam.
I still haven't recovered, to be honest.
Emotional reaction to it that involves pants stains.
That's too much information. Suns beat them down at Geelong by a handy 11 goals. Again, just getting the job done against some other teams around and below us.
Yep.
Then we come up against the Pies to end up the season at the MCG.
2 wins against the Pies.
Did the double, they call that.
Yep. And on
over the Pies.
Reflecting, we beat the Pies. We lost by Pies twice, but lost to Carlton and Richmond. So I would have liked one of those other ones, to be honest. Sam.
Well, and I shall make a point on that in a second. So, beat the Pies. Had to win that to get into finals. As it turned out, we didn't because of the other games and results, but we won it and won it comfortably. And then, of course, we don't really need to go into too much detail on that final against the Dogs. Disappointing, horrible day for the club and really took the shine off our season. Yeah. But our aim right now is to talk up the season because, let's be real, it was a good one.
It was a bit of a crushing way. That was a hard game to watch. We were ordinary. Umpiring didn't help. It made me the umpiring. We didn't lose because of the umpiring. I think
because of the umpiring.
We're more frustrated. I think
it makes it.
And there was an emotional factor. Anyway,
and then seeing the umpires against the Dogs against Brisbane, there's something there.
Yeah.
For the Dogs, but anyway.
As a neutral supporter, you saw it sort of from that perspective. And there we are. End of the season.
That's the season. So, just a comment.
That's the end of the podcast. All right, thank you.
Yeah, don't leave. No, it's not over. I want to say 2 things. You commented then, I thought interestingly, on those couple of other games. Against Carlton, against, who was the other one you mentioned? Sorry, Richmond. You know, there was a lot of close games there. 2 games against Sydney where we lost by less than 10 points. GWS by a couple of points and then 13 points. So you look at that and you think, an extra 2 goals a game and our 11-win season maybe goes to a 13 or 14-win season. Now, that doesn't work that way, obviously.
I know, of course not. Yep.
But
the exciting thing about it was that we were blown out of the water in 2 games, which the Port Adelaide, and they were early in the season in the Brisbane game.
And we got them back. We got those games back by blowing other teams out of the water.
Yep.
And
the rest of the games
very impressive percentage.
Quite respect. The next worst would have probably been the Richmond game when we were in front and the Geelong game. And Geelong looked like they could be, again playing in the grand final. So respect.
109.1 our percentage there. Yeah. And we scored the 4th most amount of points.
Best in years
for the season. So, and especially as a team that went through some difficulties with our forward line, and I think still have issues with our forward line.
Definitely, I still think
we scored more points than the minor premiers. Obviously, their defence was a hell of a lot more tight, but positive signs. I think we just work on some stuff with the forward line, and we'll be okay. I totally forget what my second point was. So
That's been a good one.
let's digress. Do you have any final comments on the season as a whole? And can you please talk for like 2 minutes because I'm going to run away for a second.
Oh, okay, that's weird. Probably got the runs again. Well, for me, I mean, it was a really positive season. I was disappointed, like I'm sure a lot of us were, that the way the result of that last game was. But all in all, we were, as supporters, I guess we were predicting we'd probably be in the bottom 4 or 6 at the start of the year, and somehow finished in the top 8. And as we talked about, we were competitive against a lot of teams around our mark.
Yep.
Now, what that turns into next year, I guess Tom will tell. But I think we all would be pretty excited about what we're going into and what we, could we be improving on.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into that. Thank you for monologuing, by the way. People don't need to hear me sit here and sniff, so I just thought I'd deal with that little situation.
I told him you had the runs.
Yeah, I know. I heard. I could hear you. Wireless headphones and that.
Sorry.
We'll get into that with the player reviews and where we think we can improve in terms of the personnel we've got and then what we can.
Because just to finish on that, I think that the real positive that we should be probably looking at is coaching and coaching staff and coaching structure. I reckon we've got that really right. Like, obviously, do we say sacked our forward coach or we moved him on?
We don't know. So he left.
Yeah,
I think that's all we can really say.
And we sort of feel as I think it's funny that you mentioned that we scored, what was it, the 4th highest points for. Yeah, all of us, I reckon that was one of our things. We were like, geez, we could do some decent forwards.
Well, I think the points for thing is really boosted by 143 and 142 against St Kilda and North early in the year when Hooker was playing well.
Yep.
And our forward line looked really functional. But towards the end of the year, and especially, that month-long patch around Geelong, not Richmond, but around Geelong,
we could only score 50,
Melbourne,
60 points.
And then GWS, that forward line looked pretty ordinary.
And again, it's probably what
being dropped because of it. So
it's probably what let us down too a bit in the final Doggies game. We only kicked 4 goals.
We didn't kick a goal in the entire second half.
Yep. So,
and we'll get on to that because there's a few interesting things to talk about there.
Yep.
All right.
Shall we go through the players?
Well, let's go through the players. So again, I'll give a bit of a preview of what we're going to do. We'll go through player by player. It will start at number 1, Andrew Mcgrath, and it will end with 45, Alec Waterman. We're going to do this all in one go. So, if you're looking for a particular player, I guess, go ahead and skip forward. You'll find it. But otherwise, stick with us and we'll have a good chat about them. So, number 1.
Comfortable on the toilet. Get that comfortable spot.
Get comfy. Just close that spreadsheet you've been working on and close your eyes. All right, number 1, Andrew Mcgrath. I'll run through a couple of stats and then we'll have our discussion.
Yep.
So, just in terms of averages, played 15 games for the year, 22.5 disposals, which for his position is considered average, or it is the average. 4.4 tackles, above average, and 3.9 clearances, which is average. Peach is an interesting one to start on, I guess.
Yeah.
15 games. It was looking okay when he got injured.
Well, his first 12 games before around the bye or whatever when he got injured, he would have been averaging at a rough guess mid-20 possessions and playing some decent footy. Good player.
Yes. But he come back, he played 4 or 5 games at the end of the season there. Didn't look himself, but we had a few guys come back after injuries and I guess struggle a little bit. And you kind of got to just grain of salt with that because, they're human and...
That's right. And it kind of did take a bit of a shine off his season. And I don't mean that to be like that.
Not as a negative.
Not as a negative. But the fact that I guess we run on the theory that if they're picked to play, they're fit to play.
Yeah.
So if he's fit to play, he should also perform. Now, I understand your first game or 2 back, he's still a bit of touch.
A bit rusty with the skills.
Yeah, a bit rusty, and that's fine. But he did have 13 against the Suns, 21 against the Pies, and then 15 against the Dogs. So,
I guess...
The question for me is, was it better to play him in that situation, or was it better to play a guy like, I'm not sure, Quilfy or Clark, whoever was dropped in his place, who was in form at the time?
It was actually Ham.
A Ham, was it? Yeah. So that's my only... but, each to all.
Yeah, absolutely, each to their own. Each to their own, that's not the right word. Yeah, I don't want to be critical because of the whole injury thing, and I don't think I need to be critical. I think 22.5 disposals a game is perfectly reasonable. He's a little bit a victim of not being able to get into that midfield on a consistent basis because when he came back, Merritt, Parish, and Stringer were so bloody good.
Question for the group and for the people listening: What do we think Andrew Mcgrath's best position is? Is he playing in that midfield with Parish and Mcgrath? Is he on a wing?
With Parish and Merritt, do you mean?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Parish and Merritt. Is he playing on a wing? Or, I mean, I don't think Sam and I talked about this the other day. I don't think you can go back to the half-back flank because you can't have a number one pick who plays a bit of midfield, then doesn't work out, so you send him back to the half-back flank. Well, that doesn't look good.
This is the thing. When you come into a side as a number one draft pick or as a high draft pick, you play off the half-back line to get a bit of experience and a bit of the footy, and then you eventually move into the midfield. That's how it generally works with those kind of players. So for him to go back to half-back would be a step back.
Yep.
But he's a midfielder, and he's a good midfielder. But like so many others, his rotation through that midfield. And he's not in our best three midfielders.
My question... Excuse me. My question is... Sorry about that. Is he a winger? Like, should he be on the wing with Langford on one side and he on the other side?
I think he fits the mould as a winger. I'm not the best qualified person to talk about what a winger really is, but in my limited knowledge, he sort of suits that mould. More of a winger than All-Australian wingman Zach Merritt. I'll give him that much. Right, what was your rating for Pidge, please? Out of 10. So rating out of 10 we're doing here.
7.
7. Hey, first one. Very agreed. 7. We're good?
That's better. Yeah. 7 is much better.
All right, Nathan just messaged me telling me my audio sounded funny. Hence
It sounded like you're a long way away.
Is that better? I think I moved around my mic and it kind of just messes it up a bit.
Sorry.
Apologies, people. We're still learning.
I was trying to make it sound professional, by not actually saying it and just texting it, but then he went and said it anyway. So
well, I think when I paused briefly to read what you've told
better.
me, I need to address it. So.
Yep.
All right, 7, we're agreed. I think 7 for me was solid without being great, without being bad. It's kind of the good score in the middle for me.
Well, I think the concern is that we need to find, next year is a big year for him.
Yeah, need to find a spot. And I think you commented, I don't know whether it was on the pod or not, he was a bit rushed and a bit panicked at times. So he needs to work on a bit on that as well.
He needs to use his skill set, which is speed and agility.
If we were to talk about where he could improve,
Yep.
And he does have that mean sidestep. Like, he has a bit of agility.
Beautiful sidestep.
So,
in traffic, boom, he can get out. He seems to more want to just handle or kick over his shoulder. And that's his sort of, reaction to... Yeah, hack kick, get it out of there. And then I'm like, oh, well, that's not my problem anymore.
All right, move on.
Yep.
To number 2. Big,
beautiful.
Big boy, Sammy Draper. Cult hero, Sammy Draper. Mullet man, Sammy Draper. Stats, 10.1 disposals. So this is compared to other ruckmen in the league. He's considered average. He had 24.3 hitouts average from 13 games. Sorry, I should have said that. 24.3 average hitouts, which is above average in the competition, and 7.8 hitouts to advantage, which is also above average in the competition.
Clearances?
4.4 average per game, which is also above average in the competition.
Which is, I think, one of his strengths is that we need to talk about as a player, as a ruckman. Him and Nat Nui are brilliant at not only the hit out to advantage, which is a really important thing. It's that clearances from a ruckman are just unbelievable.
There is one other stat written there: Mullet 10 elite.
You wish you had hair that nice.
Oh, I do. There's 2 Sams at Essendon, and both of them have mullets, so I'm kind of a bit of pressure here.
But out.
Now, look, can I start with something off field about Drapes? He's a larrikin. I love watching the videos of us post game. I don't normally watch the song. Yeah, it's a bit of a thing, you know. But watching him in the bloody song, putting his mask over his eyeballs and going off like a numpty, I love it. Every good dressing room, every good change room
Okay, Sam.
needs that guy. He's big in size and he's big in personality, and I love
He wants to protect his midfielders and he wants to have fun with them after the game.
Yeah.
He's the guy that people will go into battle for.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, he missed a large chunk of footy, came back.
Closer.
I'm close. What are you talking about?
Sounds like a long way away.
Missed a lot of footy through injury, but came back again, probably a little bit slowly. But then by the end of the year, was one of our more critical, crucial players. And against the Dogs in that game where we beat them, was looking at the non-ruckman going, stuff you, I'm going to own you.
Couple of those beautiful
goals.
Just took the ball out of the ruck and went with it. Yep. All right. I think there's enough said about him. All right, what score?
Well, I was going to say, for large parts of the year, our midfield was best at scoring from centre clearances, especially towards the end of the year. And obviously, he's a big part of that, putting the ball down the throat of Parish, Merritt, Stringer. For me, he gets probably a harsh 9. And that's only because he's 22 and he's got room to improve, as they all do.
I gave him a 10 because I see like massive year for him. He for a guy that started with about under 10 games, I think, before he started the year. To see so much potential and so much improvement, he will be an All-Australian ruckman. I have no doubt about it.
So if he played round 1, which I assume he did, that would have been his 8th or 7th or 8th game.
Seriously, you go back and you look at Grundy or Gawn and you have a look at their 8th and 9th games. He is going to be freaking unreal, I reckon.
And actually, in a lot of his stats, he had a career best game, which again, off 21 games isn't a lot, but career best disposals against the Dogs in finals week 1, career best kicks and handballs. I mean, that's a bit of a given. He had a career best clearances of 9 against Hawthorn in the middle of the year. He had a career best 44 hit-outs against the Dogs in week 1 of finals.
Massive.
Hit-outs to advantage, a career best of 14 against the Dogs when we beat them. And AFL Fantasy, 121 against the Dogs in that losing final. So, huge.
I had him for the whole year in my team, and he only scored 100 the first week of the finals. Where I can't get a score.
It didn't matter.
Rushing!
That's unfortunate. All right, I think, there's not a lot more to be said. He had a great year, and he's very...
Ruckman for our club for the next 10, 12 years, no worries.
Very exciting guy to watch.
Yep.
All right, number three. Yes, number 3, DP3, Darcy Parish. Wow. I'll go through some stats. 23 games, played every single game. Average of 30.5 disposals, considered elite. 7.6 clearances, considered elite, and 4 tackles, which is in the average category. But, as we touched on earlier, Essendon players before 2021 did not get 40 disposals consistently.
Nope.
It's a weird anomaly in our history.
In big games, and played well in the final too.
Had one of the best finals quarters of all time, that second quarter.
So we found it. Well, I can't say we found a guy, but we finally we all knew it was there.
We finally played him in the position that he was.
We
meant
all knew
to
it was
play.
there, and we saw it, and we went, "Yep, tick that box."
I don't
Job's
think
done. We don't have to think about that for the next 10 years. That's his position. That's his role.
I don't think anyone. Look, I mean, if you can put your hand up and say you did honestly, then good on you. But I don't think you would say that I saw this coming in the sense of 40 disposal games to that level.
That many 30 plus, like 35 plus games and a goal.
Was he number 1 clearance for the comp?
Yep.
Yeah. Huge.
If not, he was pretty much spot on with Libba. Him were wrestling out for the last game. I can't remember the actual.
We can do this.
Yeah.
We can check this while we're talking. And also All-Australian, first time All-Australian, which is
awesome. They don't give them out. Even if they give out to all the midfielders.
Do the midfielders. Anyway.
I don't think we need to talk about Parish, to be honest, a lot, because I think we all agree he's just had a year that we just pray that will happen more times than not for the next 10 years.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that he did it once he got into that midfield. He did it
24
consistently.
years old too. 24.
He's same draft as Oliver, just for a bit of context.
Yeah. But Oliver's been given that role for the last 2 or 3 years. Like, he's been their midfield, whereas Parish we've been playing him in the half forward line, and 5 minutes in the midfielder as a midfielder. Now we finally said to him, yeah, go in there and be a midfielder. We're like, yeah, okay. That's why he was picked, 5 or 6, whatever he was at the time.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that that's his role, done. No one else can be better than him unless we draft an unreal kid in the next few years. But he is now
he's the number one midfielder.
Him and Merritt are number 1 and 2.
Yeah. Stringer's stiff in that conversation.
No, Stringer's not there. I would argue that Stringer's value still, he's a forward. What he does up for.
Just to finalise,
we're already up to number 3. We've got to do 45 of this. This could go on forever.
Well, there's some players we won't have to talk a lot about, let's be honest. So, Darcy Parish finished on 175 clearances from 23 games, so that must include the final. Tom Liberatore has 23 games played and 178, so 3 ahead of him.
Yeah, okay.
Oliver's 1 behind him on the same number of games. So
it says he's right there.
Elite. And just to touch on your point, sorry, about Draper, Nick Nat 5th in the comp for clearances. Yep. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. And that's Nick Nat's strength to me as a guy that watches ruckman.
Yep.
Nick Nat, he's a bit ordinary sometimes, like around the ground. He doesn't mark, he doesn't kick enough goals, I don't think. But what he does is when the ball hits the ground, for his size, he gets it out of there. And
he wins his own ball.
Yeah.
Rating for Das, please?
Oh, it's hard not to give him a 10.
10, yeah, same. Okay. Yeah. Move on.
I'd go 11 if I could. And the medal.
We can.
Should we have a Don Pod medal?
Yeah, we'll do that next year. We'll do a Don Pod best and fairest.
Yep.
Or just best, because we don't care if they get suspended.
We don't want the fairest.
Honestly, depending on how you get suspended, you might get more votes.
Awesome player.
Tell you what, if anyone runs through Cody Waitman, they get 10 votes from me on the spot.
Billy Duckworth would have won the one. Anyway, yep.
Yep, move on. Crack on. Number 4, Joe Watson. Kyle Langford. 17 games played. He's considered a midfielder as well. Bit harsh on his numbers here with being considered a midfielder, considering who he's going to be compared with. But anyway, 20.8 disposals, which is considered average. 5.8 marks a game, which is considered elite for a midfielder, which probably speaks a lot to what Langers is for us.
He's a pretty handy winger who can go forward and kick goals.
Couple of clearances and...
Beautiful set shot.
Beautiful set shot. Lovely set shot. And 13 goals for the year from 17 games. So, yeah, can hit the scoreboard. I love Langers. I'm disappointed that he got injured.
I found there was a patch through the part of the year, probably after about round 4 or 5, where he played as good as football as he's played ever, and was a really valuable player in our team in how he played. And his athleticism, or that his running capability came really to the forefront of getting back to be involved in those defensive acts, as well as getting forward to just sneak up and take a mark and kick a goal. He's the guy I love as a winger. I want to see another 10% improvement again this year. Next year. He can still get a little nervous in contests and get a little fumbly, but for me,
I think
I'm pretty excited.
He's really found a spot for himself.
Yep.
Where he's not just purely playing forward, which I think he has done a bit of in the past.
To do with all our midfielders.
Yeah. As you said, can get the ball, can get enough of the ball. Obviously, 5.8 marks a game being elite in the comp is a massive strength because he's tall. It's 192 centimetres.
Marked very well above his head.
Yeah. And as you said, lovely set shot for goal.
Good looking man too, may I say.
Yeah, and a bit like Job, and I mean this with all respect, got a fat ass, so a bit of strength through the hips, can shake blokes off. He
does carry a bit of a caboose.
Yes. All I mean by that is that he can power through the hips and shrug blokes off. He's not going to get tackled easily.
I love the Langford.
I love Langers, and I think he's a critical player for us going forward.
Yep.
Rating, please?
Sure. Yeah, I gave him an 8.
I gave him a 7. So in that happy medium of not great, not bad.
As I said, I thought there was a patch through the year where he was very, very, very good and was a really important player in our team.
Yeah. 7's not a bad number for me.
No.
I think 8's getting into that really good sort of numbers.
I think there's a bit of bias because I just love the guy.
So look, I love him too. And
I'll probably agree with the 7 more than 8.
I tend to love the guys I used to hate more. And Langers used to frustrate me a lot. And now he's turned it around and I love him for it.
Yep.
Number 5... James Heard. Can I make the same joke twice?
No.
Probably not. Devin Smith.
Interesting one.
Considered a medium forward. 14.2 disposals per game, which is considered above average. 3.9 tackles a game, which is somehow considered elite. And 0.8 goals per game, which is again considered average. He played 20 games for the season and I reckon gave away about 50 minutes. No.
Gave us some of the best highlights of what he said to umpires too. Devin,
Stop yelling at me, Devin.
Stop yelling at me, Devin.
There's a great YouTube channel called Herbertron, who does little reviews. We are Essendon if we win, we are Essendon if we lose. And his outro is just, stop yelling at me, Devin. And I tell you, I just love it. Best thing to come out of an umpire's mouth, probably ever. Let's crack on into Dev. One of the most frustrating players this year, but to his credit, in the last maybe 2 or 3 games, really turned it around. Yeah. Like, dramatically really turned it around.
Gave us hope.
Was a dead set liability, let's be honest, for a point in the middle of the season there. Too many 50s, too many ill-disciplined acts.
And not enough of what...
And not enough output.
What are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing? What are you actually doing?
Yeah. But I think... Someone must have sat him down and said, seriously, mate, you got to stop with this. Yep. It's all right to be a niggly little forward, but you can't be giving away free kicks. You can't be giving away 50s and off-the-ball free kicks. Nah. And he didn't. It was like one game he was doing it, next game he wasn't even getting close to that line. So I think credit to the guy for that.
Between round 8 and round 17, he kicked 1 goal. He also 8, 9, 10. He also missed a couple of games in there too, but 1 goal and not many disposals. Like, was not a valuable, not a valuable player to the team for a period there.
Sorry, I thought there was more coming. I was waiting for the and at the end of the season.
Oh well. Then at the end of the season, he lifted that and we found the player that we want to see more often. If we can get 22 games out of him, 17 games.
I think it was the game against Collingwood was probably his best.
He had probably his best on there. I think he was best on ground in that game, nearly.
Top season performance. Actually, his best game by disposals was St Kilda.
But everyone got a lot of.
But he had 14 kicks goals against Collingwood. 10. Oh, that was Anzac Day. Apologies. 2 goals. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm just.
Yeah. Anyway, ranking.
Splurting shit out here. I gave him a 5, which I think is fitting given his number.
Yeah. No. I gave him a 6, and I feel as though a 5 is better. I think you're right.
He's gone up, so he's a good player.
He's got massive upside.
Just the disciplinary stuff, because you're in control of that. You don't have to whack a guy off the ball. You don't have to, if you do a shit kick, all right, I'll get over that. The discipline stuff is just frustrating.
Yep.
All right, crack on. Number 6, Jai Caldwell played... Oh, hang on, let me actually get my screen open here.
We could probably do it in minutes.
Yes. He played 3 games. One of those games would have been quite low in terms of time played because he got injured, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. He's considered a midfielder. His numbers are significantly affected by the fact he didn't play a full 3rd game. So 15.3 disposals, average 9 kicks, 6.3 handballs, 2.7 marks, which are all below average, 5.3 tackles, which is above average, that is encouraging, and 2.5 clearances, which is considered average. Came in for that final and was very good in the first quarter, looked like he hadn't missed a beat, and then faded dramatically, symbolic of the rest of the team. Looked very good early. His debut against Hawthorn was very, very promising. Nathan? Why can't I hear you, Nathan?
Oh, sorry, it was. Sorry.
He had 22 touches against the Hawks, 9 tackles and 104 fantasy. So I think for him, it's really hard to say any more than that because he only played the 2.5 games. Did look really good, and belongs in that best 22, I think.
Oh, look, what I saw from him too is I see a really, like, he's 20 years old. He seems to tackle hard, like, above average in the tackles for his 2.5 games or 3 games, whatever he played. His disposals, it looks quite neat. He's hard at it.
Very important to note as well. He's played 14 games career.
Yeah, 14 career games, and he's 20 years old.
Yep.
I have no problem with him whatsoever.
Rating,
and I feel as though my rating is a bit harsh, but I have to rate him on what he did in the year.
Which was?
I gave him a 5.
Ah, okay. I gave him 7 only because, again, it's that rating of not great, not horrible. For what I saw, he was perfectly reasonable. Disappointed that he dropped off in that final, but again, the whole team did. So let's
really, I only saw 2 games of him.
Yeah, let's not shoot shots at a guy for that.
Yeah. I don't want to talk him out, but I like what I've seen. I'm pretty excited about what he's got.
Yeah. All right, number 7, Zachary Merritt, All-Australian wingman.
Oh, Zachary.
Seriously. Midfielder, obviously. 31.5 average disposals from 23 games. And another one that played every single game. Considered elite. 4.9 tackles, considered above average. And 3.7 clearances, which is a little bit of surprise. And considered average. We love Zach, don't we?
We love Zach. Great player. Probably will bring home. We'll go. Him and Parish will come very close to winning the best of Ferris, obviously.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one for the BNF. Obviously, we're hopeful that we might see Darcy up there in the Brownlow as well.
I personally think Merritt will be around about the mark too. But
they're very hard to split.
Yeah, they've had just great years, and I mean, I don't think we can say a bad word about Merritt. He's the guy that's been doing it for years and years. If you go back and look at his stats, like we were before, over the last several years, like he's been the highest tackling player until Smith arrived, like the leading clearance player, until Parish. He's highest possession getter in the last 5 out of the last 7 years. He continues to be an elite player.
Yeah. And that game against the Dogs, the final, he was still, in the last quarter, giving it everything. And the look on his face, like the despair when a couple of free kicks went against him, he just wants to win. And I love that. I love those guys that I just want to win.
7 years with us, was that right? 7 years?
6, 7, yep.
6, whatever. So, yeah, really excited.
Awesome again, player. Not much to be said.
Not much to be said.
I went
ranking.
9 for my ranking.
I went 9 as well. And the only reason I don't give him a 10 is because he was as good as he was last year, maybe a little bit better, but
it's really hard. 10 for me was exceeded expectations beyond belief.
And the 10s are the guys that I reckon have jumped Zach, above. Yeah.
Just did what Zach does. And if anything, was a bit quieter, but that not through any fault of his own, just because guys have stepped up around him.
Yeah, and which is great, I reckon. And
which is a good thing.
He'd love. Yeah, he'd love that, having other guys like Parish playing the way he's playing, because that really would help him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 8, my guy.
I
call him my guy because I've stuck up for Marty quite a bit over the years. Marty Gleason, considered a medium defender, 10 disposals a game on average, which is below average for that position, 1.8 tackles, which is average, and 3.5 marks, which is also considered below average. So not a great rap.
But in his defence, he only gets to play a game when Dyson Heppel doesn't play.
Yeah, he's depth player, which is fine. You need good depth players.
Need depth, but I do feel sorry for him because I've always...
Look, there's not a lot we can go in with Marty. I think he's uncontracted, so there's a bit to happen there. He was pretty dreadful in the final. I'll be brutally honest there. He was good the week before or the game before he played.
Excuse me.
Well, I think he's a perfectly reasonable depth player.
But the thing is, too, I would say about his year is that the games he came in to replace Heppel, especially the two when he did his hand, or thumb, or whatever, he played really well in both those games. The final, yes, I agree, he wasn't as good, but the other two games, he was really good. And that's why I gave him a 6, was because I felt like the games, 2 or 3 of the games he played, he was really good. One game he wasn't. I mean, how do you play when you come in and out? You're not playing VFL or anything like that. So,
and I think I gave him a 6 as well. I think that's probably where we're at as a club. I think when you get the Richmonds and Hawthorns of the world, you can bring guys in like that and they don't have fluctuations of form because of their systems and everything are so well drilled and so good. We're not quite there yet. So, I don't have any issues with what Marty did. I think he had a poor game.
I hope he signs up again next year.
He should get a year.
What's his contract status?
He's out this year, I think. Should get an extension to me. I mean, I'm not running the club, obviously, but to me, he gets 1 year.
Yep.
And
fair enough.
Perfectly serviceable depth player.
Yep, great player.
Now, get your notepads out. Get your...
This one could be a long one.
Yeah. Get comfy. Number 9, Dylan Shield. Considered a midfielder. Played 8 games this season. I've got to say that for the stats.
I know.
8 matches played, 19.4 disposals average per game, which is average. 3 tackles, which is considered average. 4.5 clearances, which is considered above average. First things first, he is similar to what we were talking about with Mcgrath in that he's been pushed out of that midfield because there are just guys that are better than him now, which is fine.
But
however, he was god-awful in that final.
God-awful.
When we were on top, he gave away the ball. He got a kick to him in the goal square, and it was a simple mark you would take 100 times out of 100. Me and you would take it 80 times out of 100, and he fumbled it, and we missed the opportunity to score.
He fumbled a lot in that last game. Like, he really fumbled. He looked nervous. He looked, I don't want to say it, shit scared, but he looked like he couldn't handle the pressure.
But he looked shit scared. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying it. He looked shit scared. He looked like he couldn't handle the pressure that was coming at him. And
which is
really, really frustrated me as a supporter.
Which, you think of the player we bought in 2019?
He's not cattle.
2019, the player we bought in played a preliminary final against Richmond at the MCG with probably 90,000 Richmond supporters. So you talk about crowd pressure cooker.
Well,
you're not going to get much better than
in front
that.
Of massive crowds, that shouldn't be.
But prelim final against 90,000 Richmond supporters. That's loud, man.
But he's 28 years old. Like, surely he's played 150 to 180 sort of games. He should be able to deal with the final pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm frustrated by him because he's not the guy we paid for. For what we paid for him, which was 2 first-round picks, I seem to remember, we are not getting our money's worth there. And
not when you think Brisbane got fucking Lockie Neal.
Yes.
They'll not be leaving again, but that's not the point.
He's not... The output from him is not what we're paying for. And that frustrates me because we've had a bit of salary cap freed up this year with some players on the way out. And if, maybe not this year, maybe next year, whatever, we might look at throwing some cash at someone that we think we might need, there's money tied up in Dylan Shield.
Well, my question at the end of this is, and this is the big one, is in 2019, that year he did come to our club. He was the leading clearance player, and you can see even this year, in the short amount of games he played, he's above average towards elite in that clearances. Do we back him in next year, push Mcgrath to the wing, and give him and Parish the midfield, putting Merritt as a centre, putting them as the ruck rover and the rover, and say, right, this is how we're going to give it to you, mate. You've got to perform. And if halfway through the season, if he's not doing, then Caldwell, we go knock on his door and say, okay, you're getting more time in that role.
I think it's really difficult, that discussion, because your three, I don't think there's a lot of argument that our three best midfielders, if we were going to start a grand final and have our three absolute out-and-out best midfielders in the guts, it would be Merritt, Parish and Stringer. Stringer is the impact player in there. Merritt and Parish are the ball winners and the guys you would trust to win the footy. Straight up. That can't happen for an entire game. Those three players are never going to be in the middle every single time the ball's bounced. Which means...
No, but
around the ground, you've obviously got a bit more congestion. But if Shield's not in that middle... Hang on, let me get through my thought here. Sorry. If Shield isn't in that middle three, where is he?
Well,
he's got no other position. Parish, Merritt, Stringer, as the ideal.
Yeah, see, the Stringer one, yeah.
He was...
Because I guess the point there is that Stringer does that role for 10 seconds or whatever, and then goes forward, and then does Shield come in and play that role while the game's, just moving around the mid, in the wing or whatever as the game.
Stringer started a lot. Like, he's
apparently the thing is there he starts there and he has the freedom to do what he wants.
Yeah, but if he starts there,
where Shield
can't.
Yeah, but when the general play's happening, Shield can come in and that.
That's different. But I mean, if he's not starting in that middle three,
he starts on the half forward flank.
He can't kick.
He comes in. That's what you're doing.
I know what you're saying. I'm frustrated by the guy, and I loved him. When he came in, he was so exciting and so quick. And
exactly. We saw all this stuff from Jed Hurst, and we thought, oh, wow, we've got a really good player. And we just haven't seen it yet.
And the knocks on his disposal are ringing very true.
Sometimes I said this to you the other week. I said, has anyone checked to see if he's actually a right footer? And he's been kicking on his left, thinking he's a left footer. And guess what? Actually, surprise, surprise, I'm a right footer. Because sometimes I watch him kick on that left and go, fuck, that's ordinary, mate. That's your natural foot. That's shit.
Yeah. All right, let's not. I don't want to play a bash because that's not what we're here to do. They all done the sash, and we love them all dearly, but we're allowed to get frustrated by individuals. A lot of money tied up in here. What's your ranking, please?
4.
2.
2.
And I believe that is my lowest. Yes. Oh no, I got one other 2. There is one other 2. Get in the comments, tell me who you think that's going to be. Look, it's just expectation versus output, and my expectations are so high, and the output is so not what I think it should be. But again, we're just nuffies, so whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah.
Crack on. Get in the comments. What would you have given Dylan Shield? Go on, tell us. Number 10, Aaron Franger Francis. Key defender, he's listed as, which is again interesting. Makes the whole rankings. He's 193.
I guess that's key.
Makes his stats a bit weird, but anyway, 11.3 disposals, which is considered below average. But again, how much can you read into that? 4.7 handballs, which for some reasons above average. 3.3 spoils, which is a completely useless stat for a guy that played forward when he did play. I'm not even going to read it.
He started the year as a halfback flanker.
Yeah, but he played 5 games at the end as a forward.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to read the rest of those stats. I thought, as a forward, he didn't kick a lot of goals, but his role, he played it really well.
Exactly. He's a very what Aaron Francis is high footy IQ. He makes good decisions. He kicks the balls to the right guy. You often see him when he played off the halfback line. He'd kick it to that guy in the midfield. And he always...
His field kicking's very good too.
Yep. And he made good decisions. Sometimes the marking would let him down or, whatever would let him down.
He had a few moments, I want to say, against Collingwood, I think, where he just kind of packed his dacks and needed a change of underwear.
And I reckon that was the first game back after he'd had that break. He was pretty ordinary, but he got better.
Nah, it was earlier. Anyway.
Okay, doesn't matter.
His role was really... He wasn't kicking goals, but Peter Wright was. And I think there was a lot to be said about those two as a combination. I don't know if they're the combination going forward, but they worked really well together. And we had scores of 100+, beat the Dogs, beat Collingwood comfortably with those two as our two key forwards.
And because what he was doing was he was getting up the ground, he was helping the defenders out, he was getting up to the wing and taking marks up there, which Hooker wasn't doing enough of. And he was then allowing, which I didn't quite understand, Waterman and Peter Wright to stay a bit deeper. I didn't understand the Waterman thing, but I'm not a coach.
So I think summary would be he played his role and he played it well.
Yep.
Especially as a forward option. All right. I just bumped him up actually to a 7.
I had him on 6 and I stand by it.
I had him 6 and I changed it to 7 because he wasn't bad. He wasn't great. He was in between.
I'd like to see more from him.
I think he could kick more goals and maybe impact the scoreboard if he's going to continue as the forward.
I don't know what position though he plays. Like I don't know if he's a backman or.
Well, I think we'll talk about that when we talk about another player later on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I prefer him over Redmond, but that's my.
I prefer him over Stewart, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, but Stewart's 199 centimeters. He's 193. They can't play on the same.
They can't swap. Fair point. All right, number 11, not retiree. I think he's probably going to go to a different club.
I believe. Good on him.
David Rakas, considered a midfielder forward, averaged 9 disposals, which is these are all below average, just as a spoiler. 9 disposals, 1 clearance, 1.8 tackles.
Really his worst year ever. Sure, as a player. And
he kicked, let me find that, 2 goals in 9 games of football, which, to say that we saw this coming, that he wasn't going to be on our list next year, is pretty easy to say. He's 31, great servant to the club, and honestly, if you can pick a better highlight to talk about in the last 20 years of Essendon.
How about your first goal?
First goal, Don supporter growing up too, so he's come in on Anzac Day to kick his first goal, and it was that goal.
Pretty amazing.
Ultimately, though, really hasn't been fantastic. Hasn't really had a role either. Hasn't sort of been able to find a spot in the team, and
kind of not good enough forward, and he's not good enough in the midfield, and he's not good enough on the wing.
I think there's not a lot to be said about Zachary. He's not going to be there next year, so he's not in the plans going forward.
We love him.
We do love him. We've got some great highlights from him, but it was time. So I gave him a 4 because he was pretty poor this year.
I gave him a 2.
Yeah. Oh, ouch. Okay.
Well,
I think I've got the rose-coloured glasses on because
he was pretty ordinary, but that's nothing. That's only this year. I wouldn't give him that on other years.
Yeah, of course. Yep. All right, we need to crack on because we are crossing the hour mark.
Woohoo! We'll speed up, I'm sure, at some stage. We're up to 12.
Number 12, Tommy Cutler. Considered a medium defender, played 13 games, averaged just about 14 disposals, a couple of 1.2 tackles a game. Early in the year, probably would have said he didn't belong.
Early in the year, we were like, what the?
Yeah. I remember he came on as a sub against St Kilda, and we were about 10 goals up, and I was genuinely concerned we'd lose the game of football. I think at that point he tried... Yeah, very... He tried about 3 kicks in that game inside 50, and they went about 30 centimetres off the ground, if that, when he was looking for that bullet worm burner pass, but just fluffed them completely. But, to his credit, came back at the end of the year and really solidified himself in sort of
his
a back 6 or 7.
Games would have been as good as I've seen him play.
Yep.
I didn't watch him a lot at Brisbane, to be honest.
Used the ball really well. His best games for the year came against Collingwood and the Bulldogs in the final in terms of his disposal, best performance, etc.
But no, he was good. His role in the future, I don't understand and I don't know, because they used him as that sort of halfback kicking, which is kind of what Francis's role is. But this guy can obviously run a lot faster and a lot further. Like, he's elite. He's elite, which the stats don't show. He's elite in running. Like, he's got an engine.
And has a boot on him. There was a lot of times he didn't actually get the ball at all in these scenarios, but you would see him sitting onside, 55 out, wanting that kick, because he can kick that far, and that's fine. Yeah. I don't mind that at all. But again, I really like the guys that can turn it around. And he did, and he found a spot, and I think he's in that best 22 come round 1 next year in that same role.
Hard to push him out. I mean, he's... Yeah.
I gave him, the only one I did a half rating, I did him a 6.5. Couldn't quite give him a 7 because he was poor at points, but really fought back.
I gave him a 5 because I still don't know if he's in our best 22, I don't know if that's a good 22. That's my only concern still. I saw some good footy at the end of the year, and that was really exciting, but there would have to be like a 30% improvement in he's still that bit for him to be. Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is that if he's the guys that are at the bottom 6.
Yeah.
They're the guys you're trying to improve on.
He's the one, the real role player that if he's in there.
I'm not saying he could be a really, really good player, but I'd have to see it first.
Yep.
Not just 3 or 4 games.
Crack on. Number 13. Jake Long. No. Nicholas Cox.
Still, you can't do something.
Let it go for 8 players. Considered a midfielder, which again is just harsh.
Ridiculous.
I'm actually not even going to read out his stats. He played 22 games. He...
Did you know he's 200 centimetres tall?
Yeah, he's
200 centimetres tall.
Kicked 9 goals, which is nice. 9 goals, 9. So 18 scoring shots, which is good, impacting the scoreboard. And as he goes on, he will maybe turn that into a few more goals than points. 12 hit-outs for the year. It's pretty funny.
Highlight was the Richmond game where he had 23 touches.
Yes, very good in that Richmond game. And got the Rising Star nomination for that game, I believe. Don't quote me.
We'll just say yes.
Yep, sure.
Doesn't matter.
4 clearances that game as well. Oops, sugar. Sorry about that.
And did a lot of covering in different stages for our ruck especially when Draper came back into the team and him and Peter Wright were doing the ruck. Peter Wright, I think, was a bit exhausted at different stages and they'd send Cox in there to cover. So for a kid in his first year weighing about 85, 86 kilos, he was
listed as 87. Good
listed as 87. Yeah, and they let 200 centimeters is light.
Very. Look, I think
did really well.
A debutant. I don't like seeing these guys unless you've played your whole junior career as a ruckman. I don't like seeing him in the ruck, and that's just a protection thing for him with the lighter frame. But
I said, go.
I realise his position's going to evolve and adapt over the next couple of years, where we don't really know where we're going to see him play. So. I don't mind, but as far as
I don't know his position yet. I don't think he's a wingman. I think he could be anything.
He could be anything. Could be key defender, could be key forward, could be a ruckman, could be a midfielder. He could be literally anything.
Yeah, he could be. If you look at, I guess, I don't like to do this because I don't like him. If you relate him to that,
don't.
But if you just take that as as an example, similar height, similar athleticism. I think this kid's got more footy brain and footy smarts, which is a big difference.
Blitzar's got a lot more muscle.
Yeah. Blitzar's is like 30, like the rest of everyone at Geelong.
Fair.
Then, even as a tall half-back flanker or, anything, who goes into the ruck to cover.
He does.
Could be anything, anyway.
He could be anything. Was a long way of saying that. Rating, please.
I gave him an 8 because I was pretty excited by I think that for me, some of those games I saw such talent that I was like, wow.
Yeah, he had a few of those moments. I gave him an 8 as well. I think he was a little bit better than the 7s I've been talking about, and especially for a first-year player. So, looking forward to seeing him go again next year. Number 14, Senior pissed off, Jordan Ridley. I've really caught on to that. Every time I see him now, I'm like, geez, he looks mad.
Yet in the photo
he's smiling. It's photoshopped. It's shopped. It's one of those TikTok filters to make him smile.
Yep.
Riddles, considered a medium defender at 195 centimetres. Tell me how that works. Played 22 games, which would have him missing one. Yes, Francis was a key. Yeah. Move on. 21 disposals above average, 6 marks above average, 417 metres gained above average, and about 1.5 tackles per game. I'd love to see his intercept possessions because that's what he's so good at. He's a rock. He's 22. He's played 48 games and he's a best and fairest winner and absolute lock in that back 6.
Yep.
And you asked me a question the other day.
Yep.
Who's the awesome defender in our back 6? Who's going to get a game at any other club? And all I could come up with is Ridley.
Yep.
Which is counterintuitive to the next player we're going to talk about. But he is bloody good.
Yep. He's a 10-year, another 10-year. You build a team around the back, his ability.
Yeah.
Yep.
35 disposals against St Kilda he had. That's a season high.
That's pretty amazing. I don't think we need to talk too much. Let's go straight to ratings for him. He's another one of those. Him and him and Parish and Merritt, they're going to be our core players for the next 10 years.
And if he could just smile some more, that would be nice. I gave him a 9. Would have given him a 10 if he smiled more.
I gave him a 9 because he looks angry.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I gave him a 9 because he's
I gave him a 9
just as expected. Yeah. Number 15, Jaden turned defender Laverty.
And I want to go on about this one because
Well, you can. Can I run through my stats first? Key defender, 193 centimetres, played 23 games this season, played every game. That would be 13.8 disposals, which is considered average, 2.2 intercept marks, 3 spoils, and 1.5 tackles a game. Go.
I have always had a thing that this guy's got talent. I watched him play as a forward, half forward, and I thought, there's something about him that tells me this kid knows how to play footy. The body would let him down a lot. But I always thought and I used to watch him play, I reckon I've even seen him play live at like Bendigo or something like that. I've watched him and thought, yeah, this kid can do it. And it was great to see him play 23 every game. Even there was one game where he hurt his shoulder and he played through it and then played the week after. And we've found one here and apparently as a junior, he played on the halfback links and halfback sort of role.
Really? Essendon are playing a player out of position?
I know, it's crazy. And it was great to see him. And with him now and Ridley, we have found 2 193, 195 centimetre backmen that I reckon will take it to anyone. The game against, what's his name from West Coast?
Against Darling.
Yeah, Darling. I was massively impressed with that. The number of times he just came up, bodied him, and then marked it. And I was like, oh, really pumped. Really, really pumped. I want to get straight to it.
Hang on, wait. Oh.
I don't care. I'm jumping ahead of this one, Sam. I was a bit excited.
I'd love to have an opinion here.
No opinion.
I want to point out he played 23 games. His previous best in a season was 10 in 2019, and 9 a couple of times before that. So, I mean, he is in and out of the side with injuries, but he was also in and out of the side with form. He was never a great forward and never looked comfortable in that forward line. I love him just because he battles. And I hate the term manfully because of obvious reasons, but
it implies that there's no skill.
Fights. He fights, and he's tough, and he's workman, and he's not looking to do the flashy shit. He just wants to defend.
He kicks the ball well. He makes good decisions. He's got great hands, like really good hands, and kicks the ball I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm really one of my favourites.
If you people listening will be looking at my little thumbnail that I did for the video, and his photo down there in the bottom left, it was the first one there for me. I love the guy. I gave him a 10 as well.
Oh really? Oh, there you go.
I thought that might be, you'll either go really different to me or the same.
No, I reckon I'm just so excited about him, and if we can get this kid Reed that we haven't seen as another tall defender, then I reckon we have a defensive 6 that will take it to anyone personally.
Yep. Good. We are agreed. Love the men. All right. Number 16, Tate Pears. Oh, shit. Archie Perkins.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Tate Pears is a good bloke.
Tate Pears was a great player.
Yeah. It wasn't a great player. He was fine.
Oh, anyway. I love Tate Pears. Again, injury prone.
Injury prone, yeah. That game against Carlton way back when he was on for Volo and he ran up the ground and kicked the goal.
Move on.
Hey, you can't waffle and then tell me to move on.
I'm talking about current players.
Clown. Archie Perkins, medium forward. He's played 21 games, 11 disposals, and would have kicked about 10 goals for the year. Again, the stats are just pointless for guys when they're not actually the position they consider them to be. 20 disposals against the Lions in round 5, so really battled in a game where we got flogged. Kicked 3 goals, and I believe 3 goals 4 or 3 goals 3 against Adelaide later on in the season. Really could have had 6. They were fairly simple shots. I'm gonna say something.
He needs to work on finishing.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something that people will either tear me to shreds for or kind of go, yeah, I get it. He's got a bit of herd about the way he moves and his goal sense. There was a couple of times where he kicked goals where he wasn't facing the goal and he was able to turn, snap, and kick very quickly, know where the goals were, and obviously kick the goal. His letdown was the set shots, but
couldn't kick a set shot to save his life.
critical of him later in the season just with taking on too much and getting tackled and getting penalised, but that comes with playing games. That's fine. I gave him an 8. Again, same as Cox, was serviceable, exceeded expectations for a first-year player. I'm happy.
I gave him a 6. I was a little bit more critical. I think a couple of things. He's got talent, but he needs to work on finish. His finish of a few things was just deplorable. And he's got to sort of... I love that he takes the game on, but he's also got to know when not to.
Yeah.
And get a first handball off or a first option off. And
I think I'm happy with that, though, as long as he learns from it. A few of those things
frustrated me a little bit, but he's going to be a very talented player.
Yeah. Do you see my herd comparison or not? Yes or no? Very quickly.
Yes.
Just a little bit. Low level, not huge.
It's a big call to compare anyone to one of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Yeah, just traits.
After one season.
Not the player in turn, just traits.
Yep.
Herd. All right. Number 17 from one James to another, as in Herd, not Perkins. James Stewart, whose photo, I must say, on the Essendon website is rather unnerving. Key defender, 17 games played for the year, 12.5 disposals, 2.4 spoils, which is considered below average, which is a nice one for me and what I'm going to talk about. A bit like Lav.
Intercept marks 2.5.
He was
above average, sorry?
Yeah, sorry, intercept marks 2.5 above average. Thank you. A bit like Lav. Failed, I guess you could say, forward turning defender and being reasonably comfortable in that back six. However, I have some reservations. I don't think he's our long-term fullback. I think he too many times gets outmarked by a guy playing in front with a chest mark when Stewart's right behind him. That frustrates the hell out of me. And just gets outmarked. He does intercept mark well, but when you are 199 centimetres and a key defender, you're meant to be playing on the forward. So I think we can do better than him. He was okay. I just don't think he's a long-term solution. Nathan, go.
Tough one for me. I don't know. I feel he's a guy that played forward. I don't know if he has a history of playing as a defender. He was pushed to centre half back. Or fullback. He battled really well, but I think a few times he got found out, and that's purely probably because he's never played the role before. And so I probably can't be as critical as you are on his. But I guess what I'm getting to is that I agree with you in that I don't see the future of him as a centre half back or a fullback. I would hope that in a year or two we've got someone that's better than him, whoever that is.
Well, Zach Reid, I guess.
Zach Reid, I'm hoping, but yeah, geez, I mean, it's a hard one. He's another one I put, and I don't mean to be harsh. He's another one that I talk about, in that probably is in my bottom 6 or 8 players in the team. And if we can push him out and bring in someone that's a really good player, then that makes the team better. Even as a forward, he wasn't awesome.
He had a good run at the start of.
Yep, he was a great lead up marking forward, but
then since then,
yeah. So anyway, I scored him a 7.
Ooh, I gave him a 5.
I gave him a couple extra points probably because I felt that he was playing out of position, and I gave that some credit. But yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, we are going to skip past Michael Hurley. He didn't play a game this season, so there's no point there.
I
hope he comes back. But we're not going to talk about him. We'll go to number 19. I'm not going to make the joke about David Hill. Medium defender Nick Hind.
But you did.
I did, yeah. See how I got that in there without actually getting that in there? He played 22 games.
23 would have been nice.
But he went to friggin' Altona Shopping Centre.
Who needs to go to the supermarket? Seriously.
Yeah, mate. Come on. Averaged 22.4 disposals, which for his position is above average. 5.2 marks, which for his bloke his height ain't bad, and he's above average. Couple of tackles and 435.1 metres gained, which is above average. Talk about your money ball. essentially, Sard out, Hind in. Output probably stayed about the same, and we're paying this guy a hell of a lot less than what I imagine we were paying. Dickhead.
And, and you might also say that you probably brought a better clubman in.
Yeah, and very well liked, and obviously happy to play his role, which Sard clearly wasn't. That's why he left. Bloody handy little player. And I love Nick Hind because I remember watching him in, I think, maybe 2018 final series for the VFL.
Oh, yeah, that run.
And he won us a game running down the guts in the last quarter.
Yep.
And I think he actually kicked it to Lav. Could be wrong there.
Yeah, he did. I reckon he did. Yeah. Or Stewart.
Maybe Jimmy Stew, one of them.
Yeah, one of them too. Yeah.
And,
right.
I mean, that was a time when our AFL team wasn't playing finals. So, of course, you jump on the VFL boys. And that was epic. I was jumping around the living room like I was watching the AFL side. But symbolic of what he is. He runs and runs and runs and runs. And he's quick. He's got good acceleration. Falls over.
Good skills.
The legs go a bit too quick for the rest of him. And he falls. But kicked a lovely goal against Hawthorn. That one on the run. It's one of my highlights of the year, that goal. Again,
all in all, a great draft pick from Essendon to bring in a guy for nothing from a club that was playing him out of position and put him back into the right spot and find yourself a best 22 player.
Yeah, and there's no arguing that he's in that best 22.
Best 22 by a long way. He will be our small forward. That role, that's running half back, kind of lockdown, but he doesn't have to lock down, but, can do that if really required. Great player.
Rating, please.
7.
I gave him an 8.
Yeah, fair enough.
I can't harp on enough about the fact we're not paying him a lot, and he's just a great role player for us.
Yep. I'd like to see him slip over less.
Yeah, well, if your feet move,
and not go to supermarkets.
Yeah, don't go to freaking supermarkets. Jesus.
He lost a point for me for going to the supermarket.
That's fair enough. Look, if Ridley can lose points for not smiling.
Ridley loses points for not smiling. He should have lost 2 points for going to that damn supermarket.
Yeah,
I mean, what was he going to get? Soap?
I think he was going to get a roast chook. Actually came out. Man's got to eat. And I mean, barbecue chooks from Woolies.
And they live in Melbourne. You can do that Uber Eats everywhere.
Yeah. Look, it
happened. In the country, we don't have that shit.
He's learnt. Hopefully come next footy season if everyone's vaccinated. I got mine today, in case you're wondering. Get your jabs. And we'll all be able to go to the football. And if Nick Hind wants to go to the bloody supermarket, he can go to the bloody supermarket.
All right.
20. Peter Wright. I don't know any past players 20 off the top of my head.
Apparently he's over 2 meters.
So we're safe here. Split system. Please embrace that nickname. I think it's great. Absolute steal from the Gold Coast, who are still paying part of his
wage.
That's
hilarious, isn't it?
Interestingly, AFL Stats has him as a ruckman, which is the biggest travesty.
Oh my god!
In history. So again, I'm not going to talk about his stats because it's just garbage. I think the biggest thing is he played 21 games for the year and he kicked 29 goals, which he has only done once before when he kicked 31 in 2017.
And look, he has filled the role beautifully of ruckman / tall forward.
Yeah, and I think his backup ruck ability is what's made him a really useful player. I'm a little bit more critical, other than the fact he kicked a 7 against the Dogs, which I'll take to my grave as one of the greatest performances I've watched. He didn't kick a lot of goal.
I reckon the problem with that 7 was how good that was, but the fact that after that, I don't reckon he kicked a goal.
No, he kicked 3 against Collingwood.
Oh, okay.
3 at half time.
No,
29
4 against Collingwood.
4, yeah, it was a lot. I thought it was on for 8.
7-0-4-0. I would have loved 7-2-3-2. Something like that is what we need to see from him.
Yeah. And again, you take that one game off, which I know you probably can't do when you're talking about stats, but then that leaves 22 goals in 20 games, which is a little bit less.
Which is not great.
Impressive, but I love the man. And I love that game, and the fact he kicked 7 straight for me is the biggest thing there because it's accurate kicking, and we've been crying out for a forward that can kick straight.
No, we don't want to mention the player who can't kick, who used to play for us.
No, let's. He went to Brisbane, still hasn't won a final. Oh God,
and I did watch when he was playing on the weekend, how he had a set shot from a bit of an angle and it just sprayed across the front.
And remind me how
went out
much
of
they
bounds
lost
by? 1 point.
1 point? Interesting, that.
All he had to do was put it somewhere around the sticks. And I'm like, yep, still can't kick him, buddy. We've got Peter Wright. At least he would have put it. He would have hit a post at least.
It says a bit that. Sorry, we're digressing here. Brisbane losing Eric Hipwood was a big deal.
Yep.
And they've got
Exactly.
Joe. Seriously.
Well, and which is something we need to think about. Like, we will, and I don't want to have a go at Peter Wright here, but I don't think Peter Wright's at the level of Joe Danaher, and we don't have another, like a Hipworth. We hope Jones could probably, Hipwood. We hope Jones can turn into someone as good as that, but who knows?
Who knows? Well, Jones is an unknown. For me, Pete got a 6, and that's harsh.
I gave him a 6 too, Bunny. So I think when it comes down to it, he only kicked 21 goals besides the game where he kicked 7.
On reflection, I might have bumped that up to a 7 purely for the backup ruck work, but
Which is great, but
he did kick critical goals. I remember a goal against Collingwood he kicked from the boundary, set shot, delicious goal, if I say so myself.
No, don't ever do that again.
The biggest positive with him is the accuracy of the set shots and the backup ruck. So
he kicked
6 might be harsh, but
14.
he's
30,
probably
nearly, 50% sort of.
probably got a bit of improvement there.
Yeah.
All right, crack on.
I just would like to see a bit more consistency is probably the thing I'd say, Benny.
Yeah.
He can in and out of games.
Crack on.
Yep.
Number 21, Skipper. Good on you guys. Dyson Heppel.
Love the dice.
Considered a medium defender, 29 years of age, played 19 games this year, which is pretty impressive. Given
Especially
his
when he broke
injury
both hands and
his injury history.
Jesus Christ.
He's considered in that position of medium defender, elite for disposals with 24.7, elite for marks at 6.9, above average for tackles 2.5, and above average for metres gained, which is a bit of an overrated stat for defenders.
And just to put that in perspective too, he was 3rd in our average possession disposal for the year.
Yeah, he's perfect on that half-back flank. He's just the guy, reliable.
Him and the Ridley and the Laverde.
Prone to some shit moments of disposal, but
that's okay.
Hey ho,
he's the guy that goes back with the flight. He's the guy that puts his body on the line. He's the guy that tells them fucking lift, boys. You know,
he's the guy that makes some good speeches after games against Sydney.
So he can occasionally butcher a ball. That's okay.
Yeah,
but everything else is elite, so I'm fine.
And his best game of the year in terms of disposals came on Anzac Day and tackles, which is a good time to do that. And marks. Great time to do that, Dice.
Yep.
Rate
so,
that.
No.
I gave him an 8.
Same.
I mean, if again, probably being consistent, a 9, because we got what we expected from him. 8 might be a bit harsh.
I was really happy with the role change.
Yeah.
That from here to the end of his career, that is his role.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's
bloody good at it.
Prolong his career, and with, as I said, him and Ridley, Laverde. If you can get just that other gun tall down there, and with Hind, you've got a really strong building of a back 6.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we're going to skip past Evan Mosquito because he didn't play
a game, and we don't assume he'll play.
We don't assume he'll play again. No. So that takes us to number 23, Harry Jones. Considered a key forward. Finally, the AFL have got one right. The only stat I'm going to read out here, he played 16 games. Goal accuracy, 64.5%, which is considered elite. We did touch on it a little bit earlier. Kicked 3 points in that game against Hawthorn and was unfairly slated for that because we only lost by the point. From that point onwards, he kicked 20 goals, 3.
Wow.
Now, obviously we were just talking about Joe, where as a big forward like that, the little whatever on your shoulder gets louder and louder and louder, and you crumble. And that's somewhat understandable. Jones kicks 3 points.
And then shut the little man down.
Kicks 20 of the next 23 shots he has. I mean, he might have had a few drop short or whatever, but
probably someone out of bounds on the full, but that don't count.
At 20 years of age, I think that's a really great thing to say. Like,
get him fit and firing.
to become Mr. Reliable.
Yep. I mean, with him and Peter Wright, set shots now aren't an issue.
No, I did laugh. I think it was against Collingwood. Pete put one out on the full. Pete, we're best mates now. Wright put one out on the full. A bit of a giggle at that, but
Still.
kicked. I mean, didn't kick a bag. I guess would be something to look at to see him actually break through and kick 5 or 6.
He's 78 kilos. He's still got probably another.
He did have a game against, I think it was against Hawthorn down in Tassie, where he marked bloody everything.
Yep.
And
you put 10, 12 kilos on him, and he's a gun centre-half forward.
Yeah. Rating, please.
7.
I gave him an 8. I think he exceeded expectations because it was his first year. He, again, 20 goals, 3. I can't harp on enough how much I love accurate kicking for goal.
Love it too.
Yeah. All right. Love you, Hazza. 24. Nick Bryan. Now, this will be very brief because he only played one game. 203 centimetre ruckman. The one game he played was a loss against Carlton. Had 18 hit-outs. And the thing I can say, honestly, that stood out to me and I can still recall was his field kicking was quite good.
I'll go a bit further and say he's possession and skill below the knees and was elite for me.
Yeah, we've had little chats without recording it about him and the potential of him as a forward.
Yeah.
If he's able to play in the same team as Draper and what that might look like. But
my thought's always been, and this is not a knock on Peter Wright, as we talked about, he's awesome, but he's the guy I'd be looking at because I worry about why he might stay at the club in a year or two, because if he's just a ruckman, he's not getting the game in front of Draper. I think this kid, I've watched him play in BFL and I've watched him play that one game. He's got some real talent, some super talent. He could go to another club and be their number one ruckman, like really. And I hope that we can find a way to. I can't see a problem with a 203 centimetre. You know, Melbourne do it with Jackson,
rising star Jackson.
Yep. Collingwood have tried to do it with Cox and the other guy,
Grundy.
No, well, Grundy, not the Grundy. The other guy they play too is
Cameron.
Downing Cox. Yeah, Cameron. So I really think this guy could be, and I guess the Bulldogs are trying to do it with English, in that they're saying that English they think is more of a forward, but who can go on the ruck. They just can't find another ruckman to play in the ruck role.
Yeah, I think he's really interesting because, for one thing, it's hard to get a grip on one game.
Mm.
2, if we quite like what we saw, and if other clubs are looking at that going, geez, this kid could, at 19, this kid could be a bloody good ruckman.
Yep.
He is a guy that you could lure away because he's not going to get a game ahead of Draper at the moment as a ruckman.
Only injury is going to really save him there.
And I mean, the Dogs are a prime obvious candidate there because they haven't got a player ruckman. Same at Geelong.
Well, they've got Martin, who's
but he's 108 years old.
Yeah, they're hoping to get this year out of him to push for a finals, maybe next year as well.
Yep.
But that would have been, yep.
Look, I gave Brian a 7. I think he was fine. I got no dramas.
I gave him an 8 because I think he is a super player. I really rate this kid.
Okay.
Super.
All right, crack on. We'll hopefully see a bit more of him next year, but then at the same time, hopefully not, if it means straight.
Number 25, the jumper man.
Yes, the jumper. No one knows what that means.
Sammy and I both got the signed jumpers for last year's. You know how all the members got a signed player. Sammy and I both went with Jakey Stringer.
And I must say, I only went Stringer because I thought Joe was leaving. So
yeah, and it
was a good call. Midfielder forward. His role, Champion Data had him as the best player in the competition from the bye onwards. 16 disposals, 4.4 clearances, which is elite. 4 tackles, which is above average, which is always nice to see a bloke getting down and dirty with the tackles, and 41 goals, 18. So again, another one quite accurate, but I dare say a lot of his are general play, not so much the set shots.
41 goals.
Yes, very good.
For a midfielder / forward, that's a good year.
Very good, Jake. Would have liked to see him do a bit more in the final, but I can't take away from a bloody awesome season.
Awesome. I don't think you can. The Parish, the Merritts, the other guys, he was our best player for the year. He's in that top 5 best players. He'll be in the best and fairest count. He was close to getting an All-Australian.
Should have got an All-Australian.
Yeah, could have got an All-Australian. I gave him a 9 because...
I gave him a 9 because we had a bit of a slow
missed
start.
a bit of footy.
Yeah, he had a slow start at the start of the
slow
year.
start of the footy, missed a bit of footy. So it's hard to give someone 10.
But I love what he does for the
played
crowd.
90 matches,
His
yeah.
celebrations, he's up and about, he's pumped.
Yep.
I love that. You need that at a club.
Yep.
26. Number 26. Cahill. Good Cahill, as Tom Bellchambers used to say. Hooker. Obviously not going around again. 32 years of age. Kicked 33 goals for the year. I've split his rating up into 2 halves of the year, so I guess I'll talk about 2 halves of the year. To the bye, bloody brilliant. I reckon he kicked about 30 goals in the first 11 weeks.
And would have been our best sort of 8 or 10 players in those to the bye.
Kicked 5 against Carlton, had a couple of bags of 3 and 4. And was marking the footy, was kicking the goals. And then after the bye, I don't know what happened, if it was just at 32, the body started to give him some grief or whatever. But we have a shared mate that calls him the Queen Mary. Because he moves a bit like...
He does turn like one.
Cruise ship. But I don't really want to talk too much about Cahill. Clubman, 10 out of 10. Servant to the club, all that, brilliant, great. He had a crap end to the year. He got dropped and he didn't come back. And that's just what happens in footy. I gave him an 8 for the first half of the year. And I gave him a 3 for the second half of the year. So we'll average that out to a 5.5.
I gave him a 5. And that's purely because, like, I agree with you that he was very, very good in the first half. But, you know, he was off the pace in the second half, and to be dropped, I think, says about where he was at. So,
but will be remembered as a very, very good player and a very good clubman.
This is not about. This is just we're just valuing. We're rating.
We're talking footy, not the person.
Yeah, great bloke, great clubman. We love him at the Essendon. Always welcome. Great man.
Yeah.
Not everyone gets a fairy tale finished.
No,
full, and this is a prime example.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on. This is going to be one of the more controversial ones, I feel. 27, Mason Red Dog Redman. Now, look, I was actually critical on him before I read his stats, so let's go through that. Medium defender, he is considered as...
187, yeah, fair enough.
17.6 disposals, 4.6 marks, 2 tackles. Sorry, I have to go to 2 places for the stats, so bear with me while I do that. 6 goals, which ain't bad off the half-back line, I guess. And I talked about tackles. So
339 metres game, which is above average.
It is above average. I don't really like the...
look, it's the stat. Yeah. I agree.
I thought he was good. There were moments, especially later in the year, where I went, what the hell are you doing? But for the most part, I think he was really quite solid. Played good games, got plenty of the ball, had a 30 disposal game, I believe, at the end there. Yeah, against Gold Coast, 30-touch game.
He had some games where he was elite. He was unreal. He ran and carried the ball. He got down the other end, kicked goals. Really, really good. And then he had some games where he just was shit.
Yeah.
Packed his dacks, didn't touch the ball, got just embarrassed by whoever he was playing on, wasn't anywhere near the guy he was meant to be playing on. I don't know if I like him as a defender, is my problem with him. I don't know.
I think for me, there's enough good that he's round 1 next year, he's in that starting back 6. Whether that is a position that maybe we get that someone else comes in and can take his spot, absolutely. Well, and anyone can take anyone's spot. No one's. I mean, Darcy Parish and Zach Merritt might be, but
he's in the worst of the defenders for me. Him and Stewart, and probably are battling it out with if Francis was to be back there.
We can't really comment on Francis as a defender because he hasn't been there.
Yeah.
Rating for Redmond, please.
I gave him a 6.
Okay.
I mean, very serviceable. but geez, he frustrates the living shit through me.
I gave him a 7. I think the good outweighed the bad, but yeah, I think there's a bit to improve on there. He's only 24, so he should improve.
Good point.
He's got improvement.
I'd like to see improvement.
He lost a point for me because he looks like BJ. No, I like BJ. He gained a point because he looks like BJ. I like Goddard. All right, number 28, Ned Kyle Cahill. Let's be honest. Medium defender, for some reason he's considered as. Played 3 games,
VFL, I think.
7 disposals, average, a mark, a tackle. Pretty uninspiring stats. Again, it's not about the person, it's about the footballer. I don't like him. I don't see upside. I don't see anything there that... I just don't see a good footballer.
Nope,
you can look at a kid and go, yeah, he's got something in him. I don't see that.
He played 3 games. He had 22 touches and kicked 1 goal.
Total, that is, not...
Total.
Yeah, total. Don't talk shit about total. If you get that reference. Yeah, probably 25.
To me, he's not talented. He's not quick. He's not smart.
Hasn't got great goal sense.
He's small.
I gave him a 2.
Tall, he's light, and doesn't know what he's doing.
He's my other 2.
He's my 1.
I see nothing there. And look, again, it's about the footballer, not the person. Yep. I'm happy to see him improve if he does.
I'm sure he's a wonderful bloke. I don't know him,
but as a footballer, I see nothing.
He's not up to standard for me.
I see nothing. I know nothing.
Love to see him prove me wrong.
Same. I'd love to see Dylan Shield, every one of them prove me wrong. And number 29, Patrick Ambrose.
Loved player, but...
Loved player, will always be loved and adored for burying Brad Hill in the turf.
Love it.
At the MCG.
There's still a divot there, I'm sure.
There is still a hole. I'm pretty sure Brad might still be there. Look, only played the 1 game this year, which was against the Tigers. We can't really talk about him. He was a useful player at the club. He's not going to be at the club next year. I gave him a 5, smack bang in the middle. What do you say?
I gave him a 2.
Yeah, again, 1 game. What do you do?
He played 1 game, and look, he wasn't very good. They tried to use him as a forward in the VFL. I guess they were just trying to find a different role for him because there was no roles down half back because we have so many of those guys. Yeah. We have a lot of 190 odd centimeter defenders, and he's not the first pick. Obviously, we've gone through the guys that are ahead of him. So, yeah, I love the bloke. I love the way he played. He was hard on track. He was trained well, but
really need to stop hitting my microphone. Yeah, I don't think we can talk too much about him. Back on. The hyphenator, Zerk Thatcher. Key defender, 6 games played, 10 disposals, 3 spoils, 2 tackles as good as. And really became Mr. Depth.
Yep.
If Stewart, Laverde or Ridley went out, BZT come in. He's 195, so he's kind of in the middle of all of those guys. 4 centimetres down on Stewart isn't the end of the world. I mean, he kind of has turned into the depth, and I think he's perfectly reasonable as a depth player. He's still only 23, and at that height, they will improve still. He had moments of... I don't oh my God, that was so bad. What the hell? But...
A few years ago, we watched him in the VFL, and we thought, "Geez, this kid's not too bad."
Yeah, massive raps.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah, but he might be. I'm just saying, might be the sort of guy that can't get that level up to the AFL and take that to the next level.
But also,
if he can take what he was doing in the VFL to the AFL and play that sort of, then yeah, he's going to be a good player. But at the moment, we haven't seen that transition.
No, and as I said, being 23, he's got plenty of time and plenty of room to improve.
Plenty of time.
He's good. He can spoil. He can kick the ball, but he just had moments of panic, or I'm not sure what. But he had moments where I went, "Oh God, you're not." Very good.
There was a couple of times where he just panicked and made bad decisions.
Yeah,
don't like to see that as defenders.
Yeah, I gave him a 6. He was fine for depth, no dramas, but
I gave him a
plenty of improvement there for me. All right, number 30.
Have a look at the eyes on the next guy.
Yeah, number 31, Zach Reed. He's got mesmerising, would you say?
Stunning
eyeballs in the photo if you want to go to the Essendon website and have a look. I can't actually look at it because it's putting me off. Key defender, 202 centimetres. Only played the one game, so gets a bit difficult to talk about.
Hard to give him much, yeah.
That game was against Brisbane in round 5, so again, one game, and it was also one of our worst games for the year. He had 10 disposals, a couple of spoils, whatever. I think
tackles.
It's hard to say anything else. He looks good. He's a first-year player. There's high hopes on him to come in and be that key defender that we need. But outside
Let's
of
just
that,
get a full preseason into him and see where we are next year. Yep.
I gave him 6. I'm going to give him a 7 for those eyeballs, though.
I gave him a 4.
4? Harsh.
He played one game.
But you can just rate him on that game. You don't just...
Yeah, he had 10 touches.
All right. Josh
Eyre, like my scoring system?
That's fine.
Blech.
Josh Eyre hasn't played. 33, Braden Ham. We're getting there. Hour and 45. We'll be done by 2 hours. Let's go.
So this is a long poo for some people.
Yeah.
A very long poo.
God. 33, Braden Ham. Midfielder forward, 22 years of age. Played 19 games this year. Averaged 12 disposals. Not a lot else you can say about his stats. I like him. He'll do something really great, immediately followed by something really dumb. And I liken that to a couple of times where he was running towards goal and he sidestepped or he did something brilliant, handball, got it back, and then fudded the shot from 10 metres out. I don't know what fudded is. I wanted to swear, but...
It's the right word, though.
Kicked 5 goals, 10 for the year. I mean, if you're getting 15 shots and you're missing 10 of them, that's pretty bad.
I think, too, the interesting thing, like, I've jumped ahead. I've given him a score of 5, and I'm trying to work out why, and I don't want it to be biased. But when I look at, like, his, disposals below average, kicks below average, handballs average, marks average, tackles below average, total clearances below average.
And his position is midfielder forward, so that's accurate. It's not like they've misaligned his position.
They've not put him in the ruck.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I see with him. I say, look, you seem to be a guy who's given a bit of opportunity. He played 19 games. Now, a few of them were sub games, or medical subs. Yeah. So he probably didn't come onto a lot of them. But I just don't see...
So I guess there's a grain of salt with those below averages.
Yeah.
He's certainly not jumping to elite if he did play full games.
No, he's just not. He's just too small. The problem I have with him is the 77 kilos. He's quick, but he needs to be maybe either 188 and...
Look, if he plays those games and kicks 12 goals, 3...
Yep.
I'm happy.
Player.
And I can remember 2 times, once against Melbourne, once against North, maybe, running in, and he was literally 12 metres out straight in front running towards goal and shanked it. It's like, bruh.
Yeah. He just doesn't seem to be having...
Got to be better than that. I gave him a 6, I think.
I gave him a 5.
Given the games he played, he did have some good games, but he has plenty to improve on.
He is depth for me.
Absolutely. There's a couple of guys in that.
Yep.
In that category. Now, number 34, Andrew
Phillips,
otherwise known as Aaron Francis 2.0. Unfortunately, they did play a game together this year, which kind of ruins that whole theory that they're the same player. Ruck, obviously. Averaged 10 disposals, which is considered average from 6 games. Hit-outs to advantage, he was actually above average with 7.2 and averaged 20.5 hit-outs per game, which is considered average. I wanted to say I recall him playing a very good game on Anzac Day.
Yep.
When he was brought in to play against Grundy. And he was brought in to play against Mumford and the Giants and played very well against them.
Yep. And I feel kind of sorry for him because he obviously knows he's the second ruckman, or possibly third. I don't know. Third,
yeah, depending on the opponent.
Yep. And I think he does a great job. He battles hard. Can
kick a goal.
Can kick a goal. Can take a mark. He could probably be at another club, the right club, and be the number one ruckman. Like Gold Coast, he could be their number one ruckman without a worry.
Well, without Jared Witts, but with Jared Witts, absolutely not.
I don't know actually.
Witts is a favorite ruckman.
He could probably go to Geelong
Could definitely go to Geelong.
Yeah.
He is 30.
Anyway, yeah. He knows I think he got a contract for next year, and I assume that's
it'd be him done. If he was to leave, it'd be a fourth club. I think every club he's probably gone to, he's just been number 2.
Yep.
But that's not to say he's not a valuable, useful player.
Nah,
and for those games when we had Grundy and we had Mumford up against, he was very good and crucial in those games.
Great. Score?
Gave him a 7, actually.
Gave him a 6.
I think
that's very similar.
7's my can't complain.
Yeah, no. Well, 6 to me, I think he's a pass.
Yep. All right, moving on. We have number 35, who still has the bleach blonde hair, Justin Bieber look going on here. Matt Quilfy.
Played 20 games.
Considered a midfielder, which is, again, not probably overly accurate. He's 24 years of age, averaged just below 12 touches a game, just below 3 tackles, about a clearance a game, and kicked 6 goals for. Kicked a couple of goals later in the season, which was good. He did play a couple of good games towards the end of the season.
He came off the bench, wasn't it?
He did come off as a sub against GWS and just about won us the game, and then got a game the next week because of that and was a bit shit.
Which was really shit, if I recall.
He's another one of those guys for me that just falls into that probably should be depth category. Yep. If we're going to be a good side, he might be the depth player.
Yep.
Every club needs him, and that's fine. He did play a couple of good games late, but I can't remember who you said it about. If he's replaced by a better player, we're a better side.
He's in that bottom 6-8 sort of list of players for me. He's the one that comes in to cover someone if we need to, but shouldn't be in our best 22.
Yep. I gave him a 6, bit below that. No complaints. I got some complaints, but he was reasonable.
Also gave him a 6.
Yeah. All right. Crack on. 36. Didn't play Lockie Johnson. 37. Dylan Clark. He's actually considered a midfielder forward. I don't know where they get these positions from. 15 disposals.
Although he did go forward a bit, to be honest.
He did.
I think about it.
Anyway, total clearances 2.3. I'm guessing that's average. Average 2.3 clearances. Average of 4.3 marks, which
he got out in the space a lot.
I've got to say, surprising, but he's 188 centimetres. I thought he was probably about 180, surprising, to be honest. He plays short.
He does play short. You're right.
Jesus. Kicked a couple of goals. Now, I hated him in his first game back. I can't remember who it was against. I apologise. Yep. Anyway, maybe it was against Sydney. He did not look like he belonged on that field with AFL footballers.
Yes, I do remember the game. I reckon his first couple were the same.
Well, from about half-time in that game, he settled into that game well, and then since then, he was reasonable. And again, falls into that category of probably needs to be depth.
Yep.
His kicking's dreadful.
Yes,
and he definitely
very
needs
bad.
to get some lessons there. But I have no problem with him being on the list, but I probably have a problem if he's in our best 22.
Agree.
I gave him a 6.
Same. I gave a lot of those guys that I think are on the edge about a 6 because they're good enough to be around the mark, but they're not. They're either got to improve their ability to be in the best 22, or they're not. They're at that bottom, as I talked about, bottom sort of 6 players.
Yeah. All right. We're going to skip past a few there as well now because I didn't play, and we will talk about number 40, Will Snelling, as Nathan steps out to take care of business.
You don't have to.
Sorry, it's the second time. Will Snelling, medium forward, 24 years of age, he played 20 games for the year, averages 17.7 disposals, which is considered elite, 5 tackles a game, which is considered elite, and half a goal, which is actually considered below average, but he didn't really spend a lot of time in the forward 50 for memory. He did kick 12 goals, though, all the same. I want to highlight one here that I haven't highlighted all night, and that is that he has 21 frees for and 9 frees against, which is a nice little one that he gets a lot more free kicks than what he gives away. I love Will Snelling. I think he's the kind of guy every good football club, your premiership winning football clubs have a guy like this.
Yep.
He's minimal fuss. He is so consistent. He plays his role. He tackles hard. He kicks the goals when he gets the chance. Let me just check how many points he kicked. 12 goals, 7. Well, it's not brilliant, but it's not bad.
That's not horrible. I don't have a problem with 12 goals, 7 for a guy playing his role.
I just love him in that side.
17 disposals a game and 12 goals in a year. That's like,
Yep.
It's fine.
Yep. I can't speak more highly of a guy that isn't in a star player, but he's just a solid contributor. What did you give him as a rating, please?
Well, I think the reason why I gave him an 8 because it's the two things in the fact that he's elite in the tackles, which I love a guy that tackles. I love a guy that plays his role, and look, he's nearly getting 18, 20 touches a game, kicking about half a goal a game. So that's fine. That's a role that if you do that for several years, you win premierships.
You win I gave him a 10.
Oh wow!
I don't see.
I gave him an 8. So
for being a mid-season draft player,
that's true.
I don't see how he could be any better for the football club.
Yeah. Fair point.
He's just.
And this is the difference between him and the Clark and the Quilfys and those other guys we mentioned, is that I don't see them doing these things that he's doing. And, I guess he looks a bit more talented too in the way he kicked, like his disposal is a bit.
Yeah, and there was a couple of goals he's kicked throughout the year where he's gotten the ball, sidestepped, taken a step, moved, whatever, and then snapped it, kicked it, whatever, and it's been a goal. He's got a bit of awareness, which I like as well, but I'm with you. The guys that tackle and tackle and tackle and tackle and tackle.
I love them.
Yep. They'll go to war for you.
Yeah.
So, 10 for me. 10 for me. I don't think he could be doing any more for the football club than what he's doing.
I agree. Great draft. If you go through these players that we've got, like for cheap, the Hines, the Wrights, him, and the guy next guy we're going to talk about, Durham. Durham. Like we've picked up some very good quality players for bugger all.
Yep. Segue, number 42. Thankfully not Adam Sard. Sam Durham. Considered a midfielder, is a wingman. I think out-and-out wingman. I don't think there's much argument.
I thought he played off the half-back flank when he was at Richmond before he came to us, but anyway.
He was on the wing for us.
Yeah.
20 years old, 7 games for the year, 14 disposals.
Absolute kid.
1.4 clearances. Did miss goal from the set shot, 12 metres out, but we'll forgive him for that.
Game, that's hilarious.
And he kicked a goal in those games as well. Look, I got no problems with him. I got no qualms. I don't think there was many moments when I went, oh, Jesus, what was that? Or there wasn't many moments when I went, holy shit, that was amazing. I gave him a 7. Perfectly serviceable.
I gave him an 8, and I would say that I prefer him over Redmond. Would be like if I don't think he's a wingman. I think we should be finding better quality wingmen. Like if Langford's fit, if Mcgrath could play that role. And he could then be at 185 centimetres, and the way he plays the game, he's hard as a hard as a cat's head, tucks himself in, goes into for the ball. Could be that sort of really lockdown defender kind of role, but also, get up the ground and be aggressive and attacking. He could be a great halfback flanker for me.
And at 20, plenty of time to work that out.
Exactly.
Plenty of room for improvement. Plenty. So I gave him a 7. Sorry, we talked about that, didn't we? You gave him an 8.
Yeah, I gave him an 8.
Good. Crack on. Second last one. We're getting there.
Woo!
Number 43, fan favourite, Anthony McDonald Tippanuti. Who else?
Knows how to play 14.
Who else? Medium forward, fair enough. I'd say small forward at 171 centimetres, but
yeah, that's not
hey ho, that's just me. 20 matches played, 10 disposals on average, averaged 2.8 tackles, which is above average, 1.7 goals, which is above average, and either impressive or not, depending on how you look at it. Most of those came in the first half of the season. We've talked about Waller a bit on the pod already. Again, we're talking about the football player here, not the person. We hope he's sort of getting to a place where he wants to be, needs to be with the off-field stuff. But geez, he was poor second half of the year.
Again, he looked like he was injured or something. The body wasn't working the way He'd lost towards those last few games. He wasn't tackling or chasing like we thought he could. And that's really his bread and butter. If he's not doing that, he's pretty useless in the team.
Yeah. And 34 goals for the year. 28,
awesome.
27 of them came pre-bye. Bit like Hooker.
I mean, if he could play a full year at that rate, kick 40 goals, that's what we want from him. That's what we need.
Well, yeah, he could kick 40 to 50 quite.
Yeah, I'd be happy with 40.
And look,
40 goals,
there's been a knock on Waller for consistency throughout. It's not a new thing this year. It's just this year he really did drop off, which, and then he went out of the side for personal reasons. So maybe you just don't know what's going on in these guys' lives. Nope. We know what he's capable of. I gave him an 8 in the first half of the year and a 4 in the second half, so we'll call that a 6.
I also gave him a 6. I didn't do it the way you did it. I just gave him a 6 because I felt that, for a lot of the year he was really, really useful, but his last probably 4 or 5 games, he just dropped off. And to be dropped again, I gave Hooker a 5 because he was dropped. And McDonald-Timberley, I'm not sure if he was technically dropped, but I felt that in that final game, in the Bulldogs final game, if he was fit or if there was a mental issue, then they didn't play him. That's fair enough. But if he was fit, he should have been in that team because he was one of those sort of style of players or the type of player we were probably lacking, that harassing small forward in a wet game. We needed that. And
I think with the difference with Hooker is we both probably realise there's more to this than just football. Whereas Hooksy just lost a bit of form
with Hooker, it's the end of his career.
Yeah, and he's 32. He's got 4 years.
Whereas Waller is still in. He's still not in the middle, but he's in the.
He's 28, not 32. Yeah,
he's the sunshine period of his career. He should be playing the best football he can play at 28. Anyway, moving on.
All right, last one. Where we just hit 2 hours. So
I'm going to scoot quickly past the beautiful man that is. Oh, no, the next one is...
Yeah, I was going to say the one after is the beautiful man that is Tom Heard. We're not going to skip him. We'll talk about
Alec Waterman doesn't have a picture on the Essendon
Alec
website.
Waterman is a grey man.
Seriously?
He's been there long enough. COVID, they probably... I don't know. Anyway. You see Kane Baldwin's photo? Kane Baldwin's been cut out of another photo. You can at least do that.
I want to tell you, just quickly, I've seen some ripper ones about Lachie Neale in a Freo jumper.
Do you even need to do the Photoshop?
I think that's what's funny. Here's what I've Photoshopped of Lachie Neale in a Freo jumper. And people have posted below it. He used to play for them. He
used to play for Freo, yeah.
It cracks me up every time I see it. It'll make me laugh. Sorry, Alec Waterman.
Alec Waterman, medium forward, 25 years of age, played 14 games, averaged 10 disposals and 1.2 goals a game, which surprisingly is considered above average. Look, I think he debuted against St Kilda. He kicked a lovely goal from about...
He can kick a ball.
55 out, and it just... Minimal effort, lovely kicking action, lovely boot.
Beautiful thumping left footer.
I need to change my rating now. I'm looking at the stats a bit closer. 17 goals. That's quite okay.
Yeah,
there were games where he looked a bit lost. There were games, I think the Gold Coast one, where you just had to wonder what his role actually was.
Yep.
But again, probably in that depth, I think we're a better club if we can find an upgrade on what he brings. Obviously, that's a redundant statement, but
it's funny. I gave him a 5.
Same, but I probably need to bump that up.
I get it. You're right. 17 goals from 14 games. That's just he's done his job.
Yeah.
2 tackles a game. I'm probably a bit harsh on him there. I guess my knock on him is a bit like you. I don't like where they're playing him. Is this deep forward? I'm very confused by that.
But then he's not really the body, the build to be a midfielder or anything else. But I think the way he was isolated in that forward line at times, you just got to be...
He's 88 kilos, 182 centimetres, so he's a chunky... He's got a bit of
monkey. Well, he's got muscles.
Yeah.
But at 182, to be I'm 185 for Christ's sake, to be the isolated forward.
Short,
yeah, I'm short in terms of footballers. I'm short, yeah. So to be the guy left as the single forward was bizarre. But I'll bump mine up to a 6.5. He's close to that 7 mark.
Yeah, I think I'll give him a 6. A bit like all those other guys we've talked about that I think are around that bottom group of players in our club that they've done enough to be about getting the games I've got. But if they're the guys we rely on next year, next year and the years coming, we won't improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the last thing I'm going to touch on here. That post did not do very well.
He's just touched on it.
I did put a post up on the page earlier asking for some fan input. Now, unfortunately, we've only had one comment. So, look, get in the comments, please.
We can keep talking. It's only been 2 hours.
We like comments. We like interaction from you guys. I kind of just said, what was your favourite part of the year, and what would you like us to talk about? Young Joe Charbine, apologies if I butchered that, has commented his favourite moment was beating the Dogs, riding every bump with the boys, and couldn't believe how far we've come against the top team at the time, who loved to bully us. We did talk about that in the preview. They were prone to flog us. Second was when we stormed back and hit the front against the Tigers, which was a great moment.
Well done, Joe.
Yep, thanks, Joe. Thank you for commenting. You're guaranteed to get on, I guess, with only one comment.
You can win the T-shirt.
Yeah, the T-shirt that we don't have, so you're not actually winning a T-shirt.
One day we'll have a T-shirt.
Nathan really needs to stop making false promises to our
fans. To Joe. Joe, I apologise for the false promise.
Joe, look, you have a shit name, actually, because...
Hey, back it down. Joe's a wonderful... Joe was my grandfather's name, I'll have you know, young man.
Okay, I'm just burnt.
Lovely man, Joe Floyd. Wonderful man.
Chuck a B in there, and you've got me. I'll give you a T-shirt.
Named after names from the Bible. No, that's too much.
Job?
Yeah, Job.
Is that biblical?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Don't drop you.
Sorry. But no one's listening. We've been going for 7 hours. I've got to go do the dishes.
2 hours and 6 minutes. All right, we are going to wrap it up here. For the rest of the year, we might do one, depending how much there is to talk about with trade period. But
I would like to do another one of. I would honestly like to do another one at some stage of a best 22 coming up, sort of. Or best
that will probably cross over into next year when we know a bit more about drafts and that sort of stuff.
Well, I'd like to do a best 22 and see where the weaknesses are and see where we should be what we should be targeting, what players in the off season we should be targeting personally.
All right. If you want to hear that, like the video, get in the comments, let us know. Otherwise, we won't do it.
We'll do it anyway.
We'll do it anyway. Yeah, true. We love talking about the Dons. All right. No final comments from you?
I think we've said enough.
We have probably said enough. All right. Thank you for listening. It means a lot to us to see those little numbers go up every week, every time we do this. I hope this wasn't too long. I hope you finally finished that poo. You can reopen that spreadsheet. Get back to work, you slacker.
Or the commute.
Or back to you. Yeah, if you were commuting that whole time, I feel sorry for you.
You've ended up in another state.
Yes. Anyway, we really do appreciate everyone that takes their time to listen to our little opinions on footy. All right, go Dons.
Go Dons!